We get a lot of questions about installing the electroculture antennas in raised bed gardens or box gardens, container gardens. And so I'm just going to try to help people who have those antennas already or who may be thinking about installing those systems and have that type of setup. Here on our farm we grow in the ground, so we don't have a lot of that, but we have adaptations most certainly for those scenarios. It's actually pretty ideal. I'm going to show you on paper kind of 3 different scenarios with a box garden, and it works in theory exactly like it would in a large field. So you could imagine this black rectangle as a 3-foot by 8-foot box garden, or you could imagine this rectangle as a 20-foot by 1,000-foot long strip of crop. Like, it really wouldn't matter. It's the same theory. So in this case, let's pretend this is a raised bed or box garden, let's say 3-foot by 10-foot. It wouldn't matter, but you would install the antenna on the southern side, and we're showing you these different scenarios. In this case, south is here and north is here. If you're going to build your raised bed gardens or box gardens around this system, then you would install them first and then build the boxes and put the wood up afterwards. Most people already have their boxes in place and they're going to be where they're going to be. So to adapt to that, you would just run the ground line in line with the telluric current south to north, no matter what the linear direction is. So in this case, this is like kind of an ideal scenario where it would be oriented south to north exactly. And you would put your post in on your southern end. That's the antenna. That would be the post. You would connect the wire to the ground line. It would run underneath the crop in the raised bed, and then it would go down deeper into a grounding termination point on the northern end at the negative spot. Now, if you already have crops, or let's say a certain amount of infrastructure already in your beds, already full of soil, you could drill a small hole at the very bottom of the wood. Perhaps make a trench with a digging bar or a small trenching shovel right in the center. Run your line through that little hole in the wood. Maybe you would need some sort of insulator, like a piece of shrink tubing or something around that where it would touch the wood so you don't get bleed off there. And the same thing over here, where it would go through a little hole in the box of the raised bed. You would need a little piece of shrink tubing right there around the wire. This red represents the ground wire running under the crop. And then here, this would terminate deeper than it's running here. So if it's running, let's say 8 or 10 inches under the crops here, it would want to terminate it maybe like 16, 18, 20 inches deep here to provide your negative point. Now let's say, for instance, that your orientation of your bed is this way, to where it's running short ways, south to north. You would run it through the short way. In this case, if you had more distance this way, you might need more antennas to fill that east to west spread, which is approximately 20 feet. This line that goes south to north can run infinite distance, miles if you wish. So in this case, again, we're using the same principle. The antenna is on the southern side, connected to the wire, which runs under the crop to the northern end, and then that's just kind of a 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional representation of it going down into the ground there. It's not actually going off to the right. That would be going into the ground there on the northern end. Same way, it might be a diagonal orientation, where your south to north is like this, going diagonally. Again, same principle, it doesn't matter. Antenna goes on the southern end, connects down to the southern end of your furrow, and the ground wire would run south to north and terminate deeper in the ground on the northern side. And this is just to show you that no matter what the orientation is of the bed, the ground line follows a south to north pattern in the furrow. And like I said, if you're going to set your beds up around these systems, you may put them in first where they run right under the crops when you install your beds. If they're already installed, you can adapt them by either feeding the wire underneath or digging a small furrow in the bed and perhaps making a really tiny hole with a drill in the wood of the box, insulating where it might touch the wood, and running it through just like you would if it was a crop in a large farm scenario in the ground. So I'm just trying to help with the principles of installing these in a raised bed garden.